All right, welcome Ninja Fam. Today I am talking about a fancy superfood beverage that I found at the grocery store and decided that I should try it because I just need to know these things. So it's called Lavender Moon Mylk, and its main ingredient of interest is ashwagandha. So if you are not familiar with ashwagandha, it is an Ayurvedic root that is the name kills me because it's actually like a translation of smells like horse, which is apparently exactly what it smells like. Thankfully, the other ingredients in here have masked the horse, so the beverage will not smell like horse. That's a good thing. So what does ashwagandha do? The studies are a little limited, mostly because they've only done them in men, par for the course. So basically, it's shown promise in terms of relaxation, stress reduction, less depression, things like that, as well as some things that apply a little less to me, and especially less at bedtime, performance, like at the gym, in terms of power output, and also for men, fertility. The quality of my semen is not particularly important to me, so that's not a benefit I will get. What else is in here? Okay, so going through the ingredient list. I always check the ingredient list before I buy any of these things because I'm just like, what are they selling? All right, so we have in the ashwagandha is the first ingredient. So it's like, okay, well, they're selling you what they said they are. Or coconut milk, date powder, lavender tea, beet powder. So the lavender tea is another relaxing component. So that's the smell of lavender is pretty well known as a relaxant. So that's why that's in there. We're getting beet powder. So beet powder is actually pretty big right now in the world of fitness again, because again, power output, cardiovascular benefits, potential benefits in long-term cardiovascular health. So that's cool. I kind of doubt there's enough in here. A serving size is 1 teaspoon. So I very much doubt that there is enough in here to matter. But it does give it a nice, pretty purple color, and is also another something that's a little bit sweet, right? So one of their selling points is that it's no all natural sweeteners or something like that. Anyway, so what they mean by that is that they use plants that are not your standard table sugar, which are interesting. Also beets. Anyways, beside the point. Organic tart cherry powder. So tart cherry powder is, again, pretty big in health and fitness right now. And that one is another one that can potentially really help with sleep, particularly often recommended for women in menopause. Again, dosage-wise, I don't know if there's going to be enough in here to actually meet the recommended dose, because although this is a powder, the recommended dose is 2 glasses per day, like 2 8-ounce servings of tart cherry juice. So even if you dehydrate that down in a teaspoon, I'm going to go ahead and say that probably minimal. Not saying it's not a benefit at all, but it's nowhere near the recommended dose if you actually wanted the full benefits of tart cherry juice. After that, we've got vanilla flavoring, lavender flavor. The lavender is very strong, heads up. And then monk fruit, which is a sweetener. So we have actually things that I pay attention to and then verify on the label. There are 3 different things in this ingredient list that are sweeteners. So we have the date powder, the beet powder, and the monk fruit. All of those are sugar sources, technically speaking. They are pretty low carb ones though, and in this case it does pan out in that the actual sugar per 1 teaspoon serving is 2 grams, so that's very, very reasonable. But it is just a note on things that I look for in the label that pay attention to that. Often they'll be like, there's no added sugar, but then they have all of these really intensely sugar sweetened bearing foods that they've just added in. It's like, but it's not sugar. So pay attention to that sneakiness on labels. Like I said, in this case, it's fine. So points of general taste, it's not bad. The lavender is really, really intense. I do not like super, super strong floral scents myself. Like I like lavender out in the garden, but having it like right in my face, I dilute it a little more than they say because I found it a little strong. But it tastes not bad. Probably wouldn't take it every day. Probably wouldn't become like a habit thing for me. But yeah, not bad, not bad. I only tried it warm. They do say you can do it cold too. Things that I've marked down as small concern items. So one is dosage. So the ashwagandha dosage here is 2,000 milligrams, which is a really, really high dose. We don't actually have studies on any kind of sustained use at high dosage. All of the studies, the recommended dose right now is like 300 to 500 milligrams, I think, and this is 2,000. So just things I would be a little bit cautious about mega dosing on something that we really have no idea what the long-term effects would be. So if you want to use something like this, use it occasionally. Maybe don't go hog wild and do it every day. Mix it up with some other stuff. Just be cautious, right? The other thing that I do not love is that they don't really say how much there is of anything else. So you don't know how much of the tart cherry juice powder is in here. You don't know how much there is of the lavender. Like lavender is less important for dosage, but like in terms of the tart cherry juice, I would like to actually know how much is in it in milligrams so that I can compare to like supplement recommendations and see if it's actually a useful amount or if it's just, again, for color and a bit of flavor, right? And you know, fashion, because we like to do stuff because it's fashionable. And the other thing that I'm just going to mention as a general rule, anytime you are doing something that has these herbal supplements in it, even though it's like, it's an herbal supplement, make sure you check any meds that you are taking to make sure there are no interactions. These do have medical studies on them showing that they have specific health effects. So you want to know if it's going to interact with blood pressure medication, diabetes medication, any of that stuff. Make sure you check always all of your medications. Are there any interactions with these particular herbs? So always be safe. Hope that is helpful for you. And I'll be back next time I buy something else spontaneously from the grocery store.